What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. NBA Finals Game 3 last night. Pacers win 116-107. Really close game, back and forth, pretty much all night long. Indiana pulls away a little bit in the end. They end up winning by 9. Halliburton, 22 points and 11 assists in the game. Big game for Ben Zigmalfarin for the Indiana Pacers. Maybe the best game of his career. He had 27 points. 9 of 12 from the field, had 2 threes. Big game for Benedict Malferin, really stepping up off the bench now on Siakam has 21 points. As Indiana picked up a huge win in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Jalen Williams had 26 in the game, 20 and 10. Patrick Holmgren Shea, 24 points in the game. 9 of 20 wasn't his best night. But so big night. For the Pacers, they win Game 3, up 2-1. First of all, that Indiana crowd was rocking. Okay, they were rocking all night from the tip. Defense! When Indiana's on defense, they were rocking all night. So kudos to them. They really were into it. Obviously, they've kind of been starved for a legit contender really in any sport. The Colts have been a very mediocre team for a long time. Ever since they went to the AFC Championship in 2014 off the Deflategate game. That team has been very, very mediocre, especially since Andrew Luck retired right before the 2019 season. The Pacers haven't been very good for a while, until last year. Obviously, we're in the ECF last year, and now they're in the finals. And then I can go around the list for all their teams. They've kind of been starving for a contender for a while, and now they finally seem to have one with the Indiana Pacers. But a big win for the Pacers, 116-107. Could this be a team of destiny? I don't know. It might just be they are up 2-1. This has been a overall very good series. Obviously, Game 1 went down to the wire. Pacers come all the way back. Game 2, obviously, kind of runs them off the floor, but Game 3, phenomenal game. Indiana wins 116-107. Game 4 will be on Friday at 8:30 on ABC. Of course, it is once again in Indiana at the Fieldhouse. And Stanley Cup Final is going to be tonight. That's going to kick off. That's going to be on TNT. Believe that's going to be at 8:30. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up the exact time right now. Game 4 between the Oilers and the Panthers at 8 o'clock on TNT. That is tonight at 8 o'clock. But speaking of hockey, we got some news. Chris Kreider trade has been finalized. The Rangers sending Chris Kreider and the 4th-round pick to the Anaheim Ducks. That's will send back a prospect in Kerry Terrence and a 3rd-round pick, which is the Leafs pick in the 3rd round in this year's draft, to the New York Rangers. I think this makes sense for the Rangers. As a Rangers fan, I'm very, very sad about this trade. It's tough to see him go. He's one of my favorite players, fan favorites. Been the Rangers for his entire 13-year career. So many great moments in the hat trick in Game 6 2 years ago against Carolina in the conference semis. He's one of the very few Rangers that have 50 goals in the season. He's top 5 all-time in goals, in Rangers all-time goals. He might be first in playoff goals or playoff points. At least, I think, in the postseason for the Rangers. You can make an argument that the Rangers should retire his number one day. One of the best goal scorers in Rangers history. And he's been moved, but I saw the writing on the wall. He's on the decline. He's 34 years old now. He did not have a good year last year. He had 22 goals, which is a down tick from what he normally gets. He's good for pretty much 30, 32, 35 goals pretty much every single year. Also only had 8 assists, only had 30 points. He was a negative on the back end. Doesn't have a whole lot left. You look at his goals per year and from the full season. 20, 25, 22, 25, 21 in the 58-game year where he was hurt. 24, 21, again, he was hurt that year. In the pandemic, he shortened year with the bubble, he had 24. In the slightly shortened year, he had 20. And he had 52, which is one of the highest marks ever for a Ranger. 36, 39, and then the 20, he had 22 last year. So he's going to be 34. He's got 2 years left at $6.5 million a year. He does not, unfortunately, that isn't worth his paycheck anymore. And 2 years left at $6.5 million a pop is just he's fortunately no longer worth it. Mariners are a little bit starved for cap space. They have some needs they need to fill. Then they're gonna need at least one more really good center. They're probably gonna need they really need one more really good defenseman. They got re-signed Keandre Miller. Have some decisions to make there. What happens when you pay a goalie so much money because Sturgeon is an amazing goalie? You make him the highest paid goalie ever. This is what happens. Now, when you have a team, at the time wasn't playing well, and also they ended up missing the playoffs last year. Also, you had a really just disastrous situation, the Trouba situation, and have a team kind of turned on Chris Drury. They turned on Pierre Laviolette. Laviolette gets fired. Drury gets extended. And just a messy situation. But Mike Sullivan's now the new coach. He brought in David Quinn. And Joe Sacco was his assistant. Drury is obviously still there. And now Chris Kreider has been shipped off to the Anaheim Ducks. I'm not sure I understand it from a Ducks perspective. This is a young team. They've been bad for a long time. They've been a rebuild for what seems like a decade. You bring in a declining forward in Chris Kreider, who obviously at his peak was one of the league's best goal scorers, but yes, he's only 2 years removed from back-to-back for 3 straight years worth at least 36 goals. Had 52 goals 4 years ago, but he's 34th, declining. He's got $13 million left on his contract. You're a young team that's rebuilding. Remember, the Rangers move up 15 spots from draft, so you get a worse draft pick back. I'm not sure how much, if the Rangers are sending any money, if they're paying half a salary, but as of right now, that information is not out. You move up Carey Talon, which I'm excited as a Ranger fan. He's a good prospect. Was a second-round pick 2 years ago by the Anaheim Ducks. Last year in the OHL, had 20 goals in the OHL last year. So only 20 years old, so I'm not sure how close he is to being in the NHL, but he's been in the OHL for 2 years. His first year in the OHL, on 56 games, had 29 goals. 45 games this past year, 20 goals. So has potential to possibly be a very good player. Probably won't see him for a couple of years, but we will see what happens. But Kreider is now an Anaheim Duck. Not sure if I understand it from a Ducks perspective. The Ducks perspective, a young team that's in rebuild, you give up a good prospect, and you get worse draft selection in the middle rounds for aging player. Doesn't really but he's obviously not going to be there for more than 2 years unless they're going to try and flip him for some picks or for a young player. Maybe they'll buy him out. I don't know, but he's a Duck right now. Obviously, the whole holdup was him not waiving his no trade clause. He waived it. He probably explained to him, look, we love what you've done for the organization for a very long time. However, this is we need to this is a business decision, and that we think we'd be best for both parties if he moved on. He probably understood that. And I was like, okay, if I don't want another Jacob Trouba situation, I'll waive it. Let's get this over with. But so Chris Kreider is an Anaheim Duck. We're going to get back that prospect, and obviously they move up in the upcoming NHL draft. Got 2 things to discuss before we get out of here. 2 things that kind of didn't make me super happy. First one, I think is pretty stupid. So Aaron Civale, Brewers starting pitcher, has requested a trade from Milwaukee Brewers. You might be like, who is that? If you don't really follow baseball, you might be like, Aaron Civale? I don't recognize that name. That's probably because he isn't that good. Aaron Civale, in his career, has 122 career starts. This is his 6th year in the big leagues. He has a 4.06 ERA for his career. He's not had a ERA below 4 in a full season. I'm not going to count 2023 where he had 2.34 between I guess 2023 he had 3.46 between Cleveland and Tampa. He only made 23 starts that year. For that, he had 3.84 in 21 starts in 2021, his first full season. But last year had a 4.36 between Tampa and Milwaukee, and they only made 5 starts this year and has a 4.91. He was announced that he was moved to the bullpen after their top pitching prospect, Miz, was called up. We got average players now requesting trades. Come on, dude, really? You requested the trade because you got moved to the bullpen? First of all, the Brewers have a very good rotation. They've always prided themselves on having really good pitching. Obviously, Corbin Burns is no longer there. He's obviously they traded him last year, actually. But I know Brandon Woodruff is still working his way back from coming off that injury. He suffered a setback in rehab, a tough break. But you have Freddie Peralta there. You have other arms there. You're calling up your top prospect who's supposed to be a really, really good pitcher. This is a guy who's, for most of his career, has been pretty much a fill-in starter, a solid middle rotation option at best. In his rookie year, 10 starts in 2019, he had 2.34. Took a step back the following year in 12 starts. In 2021, had his best year probably, 3.84 and 21 starts. But so all right, so he had a 4.92 in 2022 and 20 starts in 23. 23 starts between Cleveland and Tampa. He had a 3.46. Yeah, I pitched really well in Cleveland, struggled in Tampa. Last year between Tampa and Milwaukee, made 31 starts. Was okay. He was not great in Tampa. Was much better in Milwaukee this year. Since being put in the rotation this year, he has not been very good. So overall, he's basically a fill-in starter. He's only made 30 starts once in his career. He's on his third team in 6 years. There's a reason for that. You're an average pitcher and you're requesting a trade. Like, what are we doing, dude? Really? Come on. I understand. All right, you think, oh yeah, I'm a star. He's been a starter his whole career. He's never made an appearance out of the bullpen. And he's got 122 career outings, and all of them have been as a starter. But he averages 11 starts a season. I think he's only made 30 starts one time, and that was last year. Other than that, he's never made more than 23 starts in a season. Crossing a trade, to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's so dumb. Why would you do that? This is what some of these athletes piss me off. Like, finish out your contract, dude. Come on. Pressing a trade, a freaking fill-in starter. What a joke. But something else that really angered me was the absolutely pathetic New York Knicks head coaching search. Why are we targeting coaches that are under contract? It makes no sense. I don't understand. We went for Jason Kidd. Kidd's a fine coach, a solid coach. First of all, I don't think he's better than Tom Thibodeau. Guess who's in the finals last year with the Dallas Mavericks? Great. I've said before, Luka Doncic has, the concerns with the shape that he's in and what, the lack of intensity defensively. Obviously Kyrie Irving is a guy who's had problems off the court, injury concerns. Buffalo's guys did not show up in the finals. The rest of the team was just, kind of a bunch of role players, PJ Washington and Derek Lively and guys like that. So kudos to him for having the team in the finals. First of all, you got clotheslined by Boston. Like, Boston was a better team, was probably going to win anyway, but to get this dominated like that, come on. Give me a break. That's the guy we're going after. I heard they wanted him. I heard there was maybe some mutual interest, and they shut them down. And then they just tried to go after Ime Udoka. Again, I like Ime Udoka. I think he's a very good coach. Took the Rockets to the playoffs this year. Won 50 games. But, first of all, you need a championship coach. Udoka, he did take the to the finals, so that wouldn't be a bit higher. But he's under contract. He's one of their better coaches in the NBA. Why would the Rockets let him go? Chris Finch. Again, I like Chris Finch. I think he's a pretty solid coach. Has the T-Wolves in the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. But, again, he's under contract. He took a Minnesota Timberwolves team that was garbage for many years to the conference finals 2 years in a row. Why would they let him go? Quinn Snyder, who I think is a good coach, but again, I don't think he's any better than Tom Thibodeau. You might as well have kept Tom Thibodeau at that point. I don't blame him. His last couple of years for not either losing in the first round or losing the play, and that Atlanta team is not very good. But again, if the Atlanta didn't was going to let him interview for other jobs, that would mean they wouldn't want it, and they would have fired him. And then Billy Donovan? Are you kidding me? Billy freaking Donovan, one of the worst coaches in the NBA. It's a miracle the guy still has a job. Meanwhile, Mike Malone and Mike Budenholzer and Tom Thibodeau and Frank Vogel, all these other championship-level head coaches, are getting fired left and right. But Billy Donovan, they just can keep his show after running out 30-win Bulls team that barely make the play-in every year. Really? We wanted to interview Billy Donovan? If he was a free agent, I wouldn't want to freaking interview that guy. What are we doing? I don't know if this is Leon Rose or if this is Dolan. It seems like more Dolan. Kind of a poverty move, on the heels of an ECF. A few days later, right before the NBA Finals, you fire Tibbs, and now you're just putting together a joke of a search, because this is a joke, and it's pathetic. Mike Malone is sitting there. He's available. He won a championship a couple of years ago, 3 seasons ago. We haven't really heard his name much. Mike Budenholzer won a championship 4 years ago. He's sitting right there. I haven't heard his name very much. Frank Vogel, granted it's in the bubble, but that's a very good coach. Sitting there, haven't really heard his name much. Taylor Jenkins, not sure if he's a championship coach, but a guy who's a very good coach, should not have been fired by the Memphis Grizzlies right for the postseason. Haven't heard his name very much. You're just starting to hear Jenkins. You're just starting to hear Malone. You're just starting to hear about Mike Brown, who should not have been let go by the Kings this year, was coach of the year a couple of years ago. A good coach. But again, is Mike Brown a championship coach? He's a very good coach. Is he any better than Tom Thibodeau? Same with Taylor Jenkins. Now, I don't know the thing connected to Johnny Bryant. And I like Johnny Bryant. He deserves to be a head coach somewhere. Long-term assistant, was an assistant with the Knicks for a while. He's really good with player development. Knows a lot of the players. Knows the organization. The front office, how I do business. I think will make a very good head coach in the NBA. Is he the right fit for the Knicks for now? I don't know. So you're going to screw up this coaching search. You're going to do it. Now, there was we're casting a wide, search. Whenever a team in any sport does that, that screams, we have no clue what the hell we're doing. So we're going to interview everybody we can just to make it seem like we kind of know what we're doing. And we'll land on some D-tier candidate and we'll hype them up like it's this great hire and they won't last 4 years. The Jets do it every single 3 years when they look for a head coach job in the NFL. And Knicks doing the same thing. This is a joke. The Knicks ran through coaches like that. They ran through coaches like an alcoholic run through a six-pack every weekend. Okay? They ran through coaches like that. Before Tom Thibodeau, they didn't have a coach last more than 3 years. I think since I'm trying to think who Van Gundy or Riley was their coach the last time. I think since Van Gundy was after Pat Riley. So since Jeff Van Gundy, really, you haven't had a coach last more than 3 years. From Isaiah Thomas to Larry Brown to, Mike Woodson had a year or two where he was good. Then he gets let go. Derek Fisher was horrible. The David Fizdale disaster. Just, interim coaches with Kurt Rambis and Mike Miller. And you finally found one of the better coaches in the league in Tom Thibodeau. And I understood why they fired him. The way he, the lack of the bench, the lack of adjustment, especially in the ECF. Can Tibbs take you to the promised land? There's legit concerns that he cannot. But wow, this head coaching search has been a utter disaster and a joke. Absolute joke. You complicated everything by firing Tom Thibodeau. You clearly had no plan. First of all, you did it 4 days after you lost in the ECF on the heels of the NBA Finals about to start. And clearly you have no plan. How do you fire the only coach that has taken your franchise to the Eastern Conference Finals this century? This century. Without a legit plan in place. Without a plan, we're going to interview Mike Malone, we're going to interview Mike Boonzer, Frank Vogel, and Taylor Jenkins. We're going to get one of them. There's only so many jobs out there. Think of the other jobs out there. Memphis is out there. Denver already filled their opening. And then there's Phoenix. That job is a disaster. He's hired Jordan Ott, the Cavs assistant. And then, what other jobs are really out there? Nothing to throw all that promising, really. So, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Pathetic, and the Knicks should be embarrassed. And they better not screw this up. Knicks have not had a championship in 50 years. I think my dad, who's in his mid-50s, was 3 or 4 years old the last time the Knicks won a championship. You've got to be kidding me. I'm 23. I've seen them in the conference finals one time in my life. Once. What a absolute joke and embarrassment to the sport of basketball and the city of New York and the state of New York. Be better, Leon Rose. Be better, James Dolan, and do not screw this up. You complete jackasses. Get your heads out of your ass and get this thing going. Get somebody in there, whether it's Mike Malone or Mike Budenholzer, help Frank Vogel. Get a legit championship coach get in there. Let's finish the damn job. The East is wide open. If you can't win a championship, you're never winning one. It's not going to happen as long as Dolan owns the team. Get your heads out of your ass and get your crap together, okay? Tired of your BS. But that's all I got for you guys today. It's a reminder, I'm in the studio tomorrow. I'll be in the studio Monday. That's going to be it for me in the studio for a while. My college education is pretty much done. after this weekend. So I'm moving back home for good on Tuesday. I will still do this over Zoom. Still plan to do it every day for the rest of the summer. We'll see what happens of my employment, but that's the plan right now. That's a good chance that will change, but that is the plan right now. So I'm not going to do my little goodbye to the studio yet. I'll do that on Monday, but we will have a show Friday, and we'll have a show Monday. I'm hoping to do something kind of cool Monday. I'm not sure for what could be my last time in the studio. And, that's also going to be the season finale of Season 7. And it'll be the Season 8 premiere. Will be most likely on Wednesday over Zoom. But that's all I got for you guys today. Till next time, so long. Have a great day.